asking, could R. Kelly be going back to court on new sexual assault charges? Another woman has come forward with her own personal accounts of R. Kelly's alleged abuse. She's speaking out in a daytime exclusive interview for the first time since filing an unexpected lawsuit against R. Kelly. What she has to say about him could change everything. There are now new legal troubles for singer R. Kelly, as attorney Gloria Allred announced she's representing some of his victims, including Faith Rodgers.
Taking a stand against R. Kelly, someone who's been termed the king of R&B and is loved by many, has not been easy. I decided after a great deal of thought that I should speak my truth, because it is time I stand up for myself.
In 2018, Rodgers filed a civil lawsuit against Kelly in New York for false imprisonment, alleged sexual battery, and deliberately infecting her with an STD.
Robert Kelly, the Faith Rodgers you knew, that you met when I was 19 years old, no longer exists. She was vulnerable and impressionable. The 21-year-old Faith Rodgers you're seeing now is much wiser and much stronger.
Faith Rodgers joins me now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I know it's hard to go over some of this, but it's vitally important.
Right.
How did R. Kelly come into your life?
I met R. Kelly at a concert. I went with my older sister. It wasn't even, a planned thing. Random weekday, she's like, come to R. Kelly show with me. I ended up going. We ended up meeting at the concert. We exchanged numbers backstage that night.
And the second time you met him, it wasn't quite so innocent.
Right.
What did he do that made you concerned?
Just, you really got to see how his controlling ways come out and the manipulation comes out when somebody's texting you, when they're calling you, and then when they're in front of you, and the vibe is completely different.
So in what ways would he control you and get you to do things you normally wouldn't want to do?
So there will be, times where me and him will just be talking and normal, and he's not always just this person that's so mean and so dark. He knows how to flip it, So there will be times where we're sitting here and he'll tell me, I'll be right back. He never comes back, and I'm calling, I'm texting, I'm ready to leave, and the doors are locked. You can't leave. So there was no way for me to just get out. And it's just, you'll be in the studio with him, and he'll be singing for you and playing the piano for you, and he'll disappear, and before you know it, 3 hours have gone by. You haven't used the bathroom. You haven't ate. When you sit in a situation like that and you're trying to make normal out of what's not normal, it doesn't add up. And a lot of people say, okay, she was 19, she knew what she was doing. When you're 19, you're fresh out of high school. You graduate, you're 17, you're 18. You don't know everything. Yes, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was grown enough to get involved with the older man, not knowing there's repercussions behind the situation. So that's what I want to shed light on. It's not something that people sign up for.
Did it seem cult-like when you were there? Were there other women who were going through the same juggling that you were, trying to figure out why they were even in this situation?
So when I met him, that was before any of the news had got out about this harem or anything that he had, before parents were speaking out. I was already involved with him. So it was kind of already too late to go back. And I had never seen anything. Mm-hmm. So probably one of the last few times I saw him, that's when he finally admitted to me that there was a group of girls, and I saw his behavior with me, how controlling it was. So the fact that you have a whole bunch of women that you're doing this to, and you're admitting to me that you've trained them and you're raising these girls, and some of them have been with you for 5 years and 15 years, and it's like, what scared me was that had became his normal, and he was trying to make it normal to me. That's scary. And a lot of people say, why you didn't try to help them? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't help them if I couldn't help myself. So I had to come to terms and accept. And I don't come from a family of abuse. I've never had to go through anything like this. So when it's in front of you and it's never happened to you, you have to really process and understand and accept what's going on in front of you. So was there cult behavior? Absolutely. Having to use the bathroom, having to ask permission to eat. I can remember I walked into a hotel and they didn't even ask for my name. They knew who I was and they walked me up to my room. No hotel that I've ever been to has done that. So things like that, definitely red flags.
How did you finally break free from R. Kelly? I ask because obviously other women he's raising, as you said,
Right.
haven't been able to.
It's definitely a process, and I don't think that people get, it's not something you just walk away from because you've already been manipulated. It's like, for me, and I can't speak on everybody else, but I know for me, the hardest part was accepting what I had gone through, acknowledging it's wrong. But where I went wrong is I thought that I could talk to him. I thought that I could change him. I thought that I could maybe make him see something different in me. And you're no different. He's not going to look at you any different because this is what he's done for years. So what makes you so special? So for me, I really had to look inside of myself and think back to the way my parents have raised me. I have no business dealing with somebody 3 times my age. That's something I shouldn't have did. And really, like, my guilty conscience was just eating me up because knowing that another young lady is in that position and I'm just sitting here and I'm not saying anything, it just made me feel worse than even being involved with him. So I just knew I had to go.
So I'm happy you're here.
Thank you.
And I know it's going to make a big difference because a lot of folks are struggling with trying to understand exactly how this whole thing works.
Right.
I gather that some of these young women are sitting there almost ashamed that they've been manipulated for whatever reason by someone who seems to be pretty good at it. Those are the allegations. Is that what you're feeling?
That I'm feeling.
That they're ashamed and that's part of what's holding them back? Is that part of what slowed you down when you probably knew deep down you should have left them?
I was ashamed. Not only was I ashamed, though, it kind of was just like this man already had recordings of me. He knew where I lived. He had already, implanted so much fear in my heart. I'm not gonna, I had no thought about crossing him, about leaving him. It more was just like, okay, what are you gonna do for you? It wasn't more so about him, it was about me. And I think some people are scared. I was scared, but I walked away just because I wanted no parts of it. When I walked away, I had no intentions of being right here, of talking to parents, of talking to other victims. I really was just, I didn't want anything to do with the situation. I knew it was wrong. So.
Are you scared now?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I am scared.
All right, so up next, the STD. Faith says she has proof came from R. Kelly. Don't go away. We're back with Faith Rodgers and her attorney, Gloria Allred. They join me now in a daytime exclusive interview. So it's a big decision by you. You are often presented with opportunities to help people. Why did you decide to take Faith's case?
Well, Faith is definitely a young woman who has courage. And her motives are not only to assert her own rights, Dr. Oz, but also, as she said, she wants to help other young women because this has been a really traumatic learning experience for her.
So Faith,
And she's willing to do that. She's willing to say, and she says this in her lawsuit that was filed by her wonderful attorney, Lydia Agu, that he knew that he had herpes.
this is R. Kelly.
Yes, and that he gave that to her when he did not disclose to her that he had it, that he knew that he had it. And that is something that is very dangerous. And that is why it's important to know that it is a violation of public health law in New York to have a sexually transmitted disease and not tell your sexual partner that you have it.
All right, just to reiterate, Faith has filed a lawsuit against R. Kelly claiming that he knowingly gave her an incurable sexually transmitted infection, an STD.
Yes.
At what point did you realize that you had been infected?
After I left.
You were already gone.
Yes.
And did you have any inkling that he was infected? Had that been talked about among the women there? Had he ever intuited that?
No.
And I now represent another young woman who alleges that she was underage when Mr. Kelly involved himself in sexual intercourse with her, and that he gave her herpes. This is prior to his ever being involved with Faith. So that's one of the reasons that in the lawsuit it is alleged that he knew that he had herpes because some years earlier he had given it to someone else.
And she had told him that she'd gotten the illness, I gather. That's how we would know?
Well, whether or not she told him, she alleges that he would have known, alleges he would have known if in fact he had it and gave it to someone else. So, you know, this is going to be a very interesting and important part of the lawsuit. Many people don't know. They have legal rights against someone who gives them a sexually transmitted disease, herpes or anyone else, if that person knew or should have known that they had that disease and failed to disclose it. That's why one of the causes of action, Dr. Oz, in the lawsuit is, it's called fraud, fraudulent concealment. If you don't make that representation or misrepresent your health condition to your sexual partner, you could be sued. Potentially, it would be a crime as well.
When you found out that you'd been infected, who did you tell? What did you do?
So my mom was the first person I told, and I was really, telling my parents is probably the hardest thing that I had to do. Sorry.
It's okay.
I hate crying on camera. I always tell myself I'm not going to cry.
What does your mom say to you when you told her?
She was more in shock because when I told her everything. Not just this one thing. Hey mom, this is what I've been doing for the past 11 months. So everything, I had to come clean. We sat my dad down, I told my dad. Of course, they weren't happy, you know. It's, why, Faith? You know, we taught you better. I knew better, and I knew better because I felt like, okay, this is not somebody that I could even bring home, you know? Yeah. So to sit down and admit to your father and look your father in the eye and tell him that you have laid down with somebody you had no business being with, that's probably one of the most embarrassing feelings.
It takes a lot to do what you're trying to accomplish now is very brave.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the question everyone's thinking. Why would you push yourself in the bullseye? Why expose yourself? You've already acknowledged things that are very private, very sensitive. Mm-hmm. I applaud you for doing it. But why not just go hide?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I did try hiding and it didn't work for me. So if I have to embarrass myself or share some details about my life that I don't want people to know to help somebody else, I'm willing to do that. 100%.
And this should be a teaching moment for R. Kelly. Because he should take a lesson from what Faith just said. So I would ask the question, Dr. Oz, why did he put himself as a 50-plus-year-old man in this position with a 19-year-old and with other young women, some of whom allegedly were underage? Why did he do what he's alleged to have done? Why won't he acknowledge it? Why won't he try to make things better? That's the question we need to ask about R. Kelly. Instead, definitely.
May I put my doctor's hat on for 1 second? I have not seen your medical records, but I am curious what your doctors are advising for you.
So they have some medication out there. I'm not really taking it, you know. I take care of myself by eating right, keeping my stress down. And a lot of people have asked me, or actually, you know, I've had a lot of people who share the same disease as me who have given me tips, who have, you know, done things that have helped me to where, you know, I can live a normal life. Which that's why I can come on here and put my face next to this ugly STD and say it's okay, you know.
But she's also, and that's fantastic of her. I just want to say, she did take a test prior to, the lawsuit alleges, prior to being involved with Mr. Kelly, and she was clean. She had no STD.
Why was you taking a test?
I can tell you why I took the test. I was on birth control, the depot shot. Everybody knows you go every 3 months. If you're going to a right doctor, they're going to check you for STDs, for pregnancy. So every 3 months, I was getting tested.
All right, let's get into the legal issues a tiny bit. What are the next steps for R. Kelly? You brought legal action against him.
There's a lawsuit pending on behalf of Faith against Mr. Kelly. He's going to have to answer it. If he doesn't answer it, then it's possible to take his default, assuming he's properly served. And I think he should answer it. And let him put forth all of his defenses, if he has any, We have yet to see them.
So in the meantime, you have been getting other notes from him. And this is a letter that you said that you've received from R. Kelly's legal team threatening retaliation against Faith. And I gather you've seen this note.
Right,
So
I have.
may I read it to the audience?
Yes.
Just a bit of it. It says in part, please advise Ms. Rodgers, Faith, your client, to abandon this heartless effort to try to destroy my musical legacy for selfish personal enrichment. If she persists in court action, she will be subjected to public opinion during the discovery process. If Ms. Rodgers really cares about her own reputation, she should cease her participation and organization with the organizers of this negative campaign. Faith, what's it like seeing those words now? What's it like reading that the first time?
The first time, I was like hurt, but then I have to realize who I'm dealing with. So now, reading it now, it's comical to me.
Comical.
It's comical because it's a joke. It's a lie. I don't need personal enrichment. You know, I come from a family of hardworking parents who have done nothing but provided for me. So to say I'm doing this for my own personal gain, like, let's be clear, when he would see me, he would ask me, who's buying that? So I never needed you for anything.
I've read news reports that he denies that he sent that letter, but anyway, it was sent after the lawsuit was filed. But the point is this: we do feel that there has been retaliation and attempts to intimidate Faith from proceeding, and she's not going to be intimidated. She is going to speak truth to power. In this case, the power is Mr. Kelly. And she has strong support from her parents, strong support from her lawyers, and we're going forward. And the fact that he's a celebrity doesn't mean that he is above the law. It doesn't mean that he has a license to go and hurt people any more than anyone else does. And so that's why she is proceeding, and you can see, Dr. Oz, how painful it is for her, you know, to have to even talk about this, but she is one courageous young woman, and I applaud her.
Up next, could more women be at risk, and what can parents do to protect their daughters? A plea that you have to hear. That is next. We're back in a daytime exclusive interview with Faith Rodgers, who claims R. Kelly intentionally infected her with herpes. Women's rights attorney Gloria Allred is also back with us. And now I'm pleased to introduce Faith's mother, Kelly, and her dad, Charles. Your daughter reflected very well on both of you. She spoke about the values that you taught her. So I'm sure this was difficult for any parent to hear, but in particular for you, because you tried to tell her to go in different roads and you thought she was on. Kelly, how has it been for you coping with the news and what you've been hearing?
I have just really been trying to stay very prayerful. It's very difficult when you watch your daughter on a daily basis being discussed in a negative manner, but we stand with her in this situation, and we're just gonna stand with her and support her and guide her through this.
What did you tell her when she first opened up to you about what had happened?
I'd let her know that I loved her. That was the first thing, and that she didn't have to be ashamed, that we've all made some mistakes, and that we would get through this, and that we loved her no matter what. It wasn't going to change. It doesn't change today. It hasn't changed.
Do you feel that love?
I do.
That's important. So, Dad, what do you want to say to R. Kelly? What do you want him to hear?
What I want to say to him is probably be responsible, be accountable, acknowledge that his behavior is not normal, and that he have damaged some women. Stop using your celebrity as bait. You know, he has to answer to God, you know, because, you know, he has the final say in everything, you know, and I think And I would say, you know, I mean, the God that loves us all loves him. You know, we all have sinned. We all have failed in different times in our life, and so that part of me has some empathy for him, some sympathy for him. However, there's another part of me that is, you know, the dad part of me, the man part of me is angry. At times I have different thoughts, but
Unchristian thoughts.
Right.
yeah, I do, but I know that, you know, the God part of me, you know, brings me back into character.
And that's because Charles is a pastor. And so I think he's got that pastoral approach, sometimes conflicting with the dad approach. As for
Exactly.
me, my message is, yes, Mr. Kelly, you should be accountable to God. But in addition, you need to be accountable in the justice system, because we need justice for faith.
Dick, what do you want to say to R. Kelly if he watches this? And there's a pretty good chance he will.
I would tell him, I forgive you. I already forgave you a long time ago. I need you to stop what you're doing. I need you to just free yourself and free these young ladies. They may not be kidnapped, they may not be held against their will, but they're in a toxic situation that they can't even see what's going on the outside world. And that's scary. And to know that at this point, I've seen it affect me, I've seen it affect my parents, so it's affecting everybody. Now you need to be affected.
We reached out to R. Kelly's legal team asking about the allegations that he knowingly inflicted women with an STD, and we did not get a response in time for this taping. We are staying on top of this story as new developments unfold, and we'll update you, our viewer, if we hear anything from R. Kelly's team. I want to thank you all very, very much. I know how hard this was. Mom and Dad for coming on, for supporting this wonderful woman, for you being Gloria, and Gloria, as always, for leading the charge. We'll be right back.